Hello, my name is Battin. I am the jury chair of Index Award and also the head of Seed Studio in Google's hardware design team. And I'm here to answer some of the questions that came up in the Index AMA. The first question is, what is the difference between Google Seed Studio and the Google hardware design team? So Seed Studio is a part of the hardware design team, and I personally report to the VP of design, and C Studio operates as an internal design agency. Our focus is on advanced concepts, meaning new products and creative services. Other teams within the group are industrial design, UX design, packaging design, operations, and more. How many people are in C Studio? So we're currently 9 people, including myself, and we're a mix of strategists, creatives, interaction designers, visual designers, prototypers, motion designers, and producers. What does an average day look like for you? So personally, I do most of my hands-on work, such as sketching, designing, reviewing design proposals, giving creative feedback in the mornings, and then I spend the afternoons for meetings with my own team and other teams at Google. And then every Thursday afternoon, we have what we call design critique in our own studio, where people from the team take turns to present updates on projects they're working on. And it's a good way to get feedback from me, but also from the rest of the people in the team, and also rehearse and practice how you present the work you're working on. Do you feel like all businesses will need to pivot to digital to survive the current pandemic environment? If yes, what issues and opportunities do you foresee in this pivot, particularly for emerging nations? So I think this is the path we've been on for a while. The pandemic has just created a heightened sense of urgency around this subject. So at Index Award, we've judged a number of solutions in this realm, including a high number of telehealth solutions. And the benefit of digitizing health services in that way is that you can rapidly scale to reach millions of people, while providing the same or even higher level of care. For emerging nations, it's important for designers who work on these solutions to fully understand the context where the designs will be used. So you got to think about what kind of equipment people have access to, what kind of technological limitations they might be facing. And it's also important as a designer to understand that you might not be the end user yourself. So you need to spend some time immersing yourself or researching that environment where your product will be used to fully understand that. One good example of this is the service called Simple. It's an Index finalist in 2021, and they focus on hypertension and NCD management, and it's being actively used in over 3,000 clinics across India, Bangladesh, and Ethiopia to manage almost 1 million patients. And they offer their services through a smartphone app, but also allow patients to interact with them through SMS and WhatsApp. So it's a good example on understanding the limitations and opportunities in the different markets that you play in. What are the most important skills and personality attributes for a designer to have in your opinion? So I would say your craft. Really spend time developing your craft. So although in your career you might be working on a range of projects that are outside the type of design that you're specialized in, I still think it's important to spend some time developing a deep expertise in at least one craft of design. And that could be visual design, industrial design, motion design, writing, or something else. Because the most important things that designers bring to the table is really the things we are able to create with our craft. And you really need to think about how important a sketch or a render, a model is for everybody to understand what we're trying to do. And I think also with the strong push recently towards design thinking, people have somehow forgotten the craft of design and overemphasized the strategic part of design, the thinking and the process parts of design that are also important. But if you don't do the doing, you can't really do the thinking, in my opinion. So that's definitely my advice to design students and practitioners in the industry to be this kind of T-shaped individual who has a deep expertise within at least one field of design. How do you think the role of the designer should evolve? I think designers need to learn how to contextualize and translate what we do to other domains, and we need to be better at working with engineers, product managers, people working in marketing, in business. And I think way too many schools promote this idea of this lone star designer who operates independently of others, sits in a studio and comes up with a great idea on their own. And in my mind, innovation really starts with collaboration, and designers need to understand their role in society and in the businesses they operate within. So I would love to see more schools find ways to teach designers about the real world outside academia. And that could be through collaborations with real companies working on real challenges. What's the most exciting sustainable design you've seen this past year? Personally, I think the Nike Space Hippie was great because it shows how designers have the ability to drive desire, work around extreme constraints. So basically taking trash from the factory floor and turning that into one of the most desirable sneakers in 2020, that's a pretty unique skill that only designers really have. And for years, this skill has mainly been used to drive the need to buy more things. But I think we need to start focusing on applying this skill to drive desire to live more sustainable. Which companies you've worked with has implemented design as a strategy and has had a big delta in the products they have launched, from service to digital to physical? So back in 2011, I worked for the design agency in Copenhagen called Contrapunkt, and we worked on the new Copenhagen Metro. And this metro was it was an expansion of the existing metro, and it was one of the biggest public infrastructure investments in the history of Denmark. So longevity, design, customer experience was a top priority for the company. And it was amazing for me to see how the metro company worked with design and architecture to create what I still think is one of the best transit experiences in the world. The process of your projects at Seed Studio seems to be heavily rooted in nature. Is there a certain amount of field research that go into your projects when they're in the early concept stages? Yes. So for every project we do, we try to establish a narrative and a vibe from the get-go. And we do that by collaborating closely with our colleagues in industrial design on developing the stories the products are supposed to tell through the design and where the inspiration is coming from. And sometimes we're inspired by colors found in nature. Other times we get inspiration from the philosophy behind a product. And one example is the exhibition we did in Milan called A Space for Being, which was telling a story about how technology is human and impacts and reflects your emotions. So for the installation, we created a number of data visualizations that showed how you felt visiting the exhibition. And we didn't want these to feel like fitness data visualizations that you find on your fitness device. So we tried to imitate the flow of watercolor to give it more of a human feel. How does the team decide on the colors of the products each year? Consumer electronic products used to have a certain look to them. They used to be usually black boxes with blue lights that you would try to hide inside cabinets and stow away under your furniture. So when we started making hardware products, we spent a great deal of time thinking about where we thought technology was heading. And when you think about it, a computer is no longer an actual computer that sits in an office on a desk. Computers are everywhere. They're in your shoe, they're on your wrist, in your living room, they're in your pocket, in your speakers. So they feel more like furniture or lifestyle products, and the design needs to reflect that context. So that's why we're actually leaning more towards seasonal colors that we see in fashion and furniture, rather than using the colors that we have in our brand or reverting to black, which is the default in this category. What's the best piece of advice that you ever received? Professionally, I think the best learning I've had and advice I've been given is that a big part of working as a successful team is the social dynamic. So instead of being annoyed with feedback from your peers, um, you need to understand that everyone has their own optics on how to look at things and coming to the project you're working on from their own point of view. So as a designer, it's really important to learn how to practice empathy and spending a little bit of time understanding where each of the different people are coming from and why.